In this video I will be comparing 5 animals from Australia and 5 animals from South America. I will be trying to estimate who would win if these animals were to fight each other. This is a rather strange topic to do a video on, but I have already done 2 others. This one in particular is a little harder to make, and it's all Australia's fault. See, most of the other continents that I've featured tend to have animals that are very similar to each other. This means that it's very easy to compare animals from these regions, but Australia tends to do things a little differently. Because Australia has been separated from other continents for millions of years, it has its own very unique ecosystem. It has many animals that can't be found anywhere else in the world, and that means making this video is particularly hard, because I can't exactly compare a kangaroo to a deer. Because of this, I'll be trying to choose South American creatures that are very similar to Australian creatures, or are at least in the same ecological niche. And we'll start off this video with 2 birds, as I'll be comparing the emu to the greater rhea. Now, the emu is the second tallest living bird in the world, second only to its relative, the ostrich. Of course, this species is endemic to Australia, and it used to share Australia with some other family members. There used to be a few more subspecies of emu, such as the Tasmanian emu. Unfortunately, these subspecies are extinct today, and only one emu remains. Emus are very athletic birds, as they are fast runners, high jumpers, and strong swimmers. Like many other members of their family, the males look after the eggs, and these are of course very large, and a striking dark green colour. Although these birds may not seem too intimidating, we have actually lost a war against emus. This was covered very well in an oversimplified video, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. The main reason behind this war was the fact that emus would destroy crops. In response to this, the Royal Australian Artillery shot these birds with machine guns, and they expected an easy slaughter. This turned out not to be the case, because after firing around 2,500 rounds, only around 50 emus were killed. Later on in December of that year, the emu war was abandoned, and the emus were victorious. But the emu also has a South American relative in the greater rhea. The greater rhea is the largest bird in South America, and is typically found in open areas, such as grasslands, savannas, and wetlands. These birds are generally found in groups, although breeding males are solitary for part of the year. Like emus, they are known for being very fast, and this is very much needed to escape their natural predators. They are targets for cougars and jaguars, and of course their young are targeted by a vast array of predators. But if these 2 birds were to come to blows, who would come out victorious? Well, the emu is slightly larger and bulkier, with an average height of around 1.75 meters and a weight of around 35 kilograms. The rhea reaches a height of around 1.5 meters and is slightly lighter at 25 kilograms. Not only does the emu have a size advantage, but it's also much sturdier and more heavily built. If this wasn't enough, they've also won a war against us, so I think they could easily take on the rhea, and it's 1-0 to Australia. But our next 2 creatures are both the Tasmanian devil and the bush dog. Now, though this creature is named after the island state of Tasmania, it was once found on mainland Australia. In fact, it's been reintroduced onto the mainland in recent years, and has a small breeding population there. Although these creatures are only the size of a small dog, they are the largest carnivorous marsupial in the world. Of course, this wasn't always the case, because the recently extinct thylacine once held this title. The Tasmanian devil is distantly related to the thylacine, but has much more closer relatives in the quolls. The Tasmanian devil isn't fussy when it comes to food, as it will feed on most mammals and birds that it can get its paws on. It can take anything up to the size of a small kangaroo, but they also don't turn their noses up at carrion. To help them dispatch this prey, they have one of the strongest bites compared to their body size in the animal kingdom. This helps them to feed on very hard food items such as bones, and this is also another reason why they're not to be messed with. Unfortunately today, this predator is listed as endangered. This is due to a whole host of reasons, and unfortunately one of these is cancer. Devil facial tumor disease is spread among devils when they bite or fight each other. Once infected, they grow weaker, and many die within months. This is such a horrible way for an animal to die, but hopefully they'll be able to bounce back in the future. Although not related, South America also has its own devil-sized creature in the bush dogs. Now, bush dogs are very unique canines, as they don't look anything like their close relatives. Some of their closest living relatives are the maned wolves or African wild dogs, but the bush dogs are a lot smaller and more compact. The bush dog was first identified from fossils, and it was thought to be a long extinct species. Because these dogs are so elusive and canny, they can often go unseen if wanted, but eventually researchers found them and proved that they were not extinct after all. These dogs are often found near water sources and will often chase their prey into the water. They are surprisingly good swimmers, and their webbed feet may be part of the reason behind this. They can take down animals as large as capybara, but taking taking down an animal this size is definitely a group effort. But if the Tasmanian devil and the bush dog were to fight each other, who would come out victorious? Size-wise, there really isn't that much in it, as they both have an average size of around 60 centimeters in length, but the Tasmanian devil is slightly heavier, with a weight of 7 kilograms compared to the bush dog's 6. Both of these animals tend to work in groups, but because the Tasmanian devil has such a strong bite, I would say that it would win this fight, and that makes it 2-0 to Australia. But our next two creatures are both the maned wolf and the dingo. Now, as I just covered, the maned wolf is a relative of the bush dog, but their body shapes couldn't be any more different. The maned wolf has extremely long legs, and these long legs help them to see above long grasses. They're most often found in semi-open areas, and although they'll feed on small creatures, they are very much omnivorous and show a liking for fruit, such as the wolf apple. The maned wolf is the world's tallest canine, but it is a bit of an oddball. Although it's called a wolf, it isn't actually a wolf, and also isn't classified as a fox, a dog, or coyote. It's thought that its last common ancestor went extinct around 6.7 million years ago, so this canine really is one of a kind. But of course, Australia has its own very unique canine, in the dingo. Now, the dingo is an ancient lineage of dog, and even though it's seen as an iconic Australian animal, it hasn't been in Australia for that long. The earliest known dingo fossil in Australia dates back to around 3,450 years ago. It's thought that they were brought to Australia by a human population, but were then left to roam free. When the dingo made its way to Australia, it became Australia's largest terrestrial carnivore. As you can imagine, this had a huge effect on the ecosystem, as many of the native predators now had competition, and the dingo was able to wipe out large amounts of prey animals. It's thought that they could have played a part in the extinction of the thylacine, but this was also mainly due down to hunting by humans. In many parts of Australia, they are seen as pests, as they will target livestock, and the largest fence in the world was built to keep out dingoes. But if the dingo and the maned wolf were to fight, who would come out victorious? Well, of course, the maned wolf is taller, reaching a size of around 90 centimeters at the shoulder, compared to the dingo's 60. Despite this difference in height, the maned wolf is only slightly heavier, with an average weight of around 20 kilograms, compared to the dingo's 15. This is a very hard battle to judge, because even though the maned wolf is taller, the dingo is a lot stockier and more muscly. But because the maned wolf is so much taller and a little heavier, I'll give it to the maned wolf on this occasion, and that now makes it 2-1. But our next two creatures are the Argentine black and white tegu and the Perentie. Now, the black and white tegu is the largest of the tegu lizards, and is known for being very adaptable. They'll eat almost anything they can fit in their mouths, and are very fond of bird eggs. Of course, this lizard is also a very popular pet, and this is part of the reason why there is an invasive population in Florida today. Because these lizards are so large and stocky, they're not the best climbers, and live most of their lives on the ground. They are not the fastest of reptiles, but they have been observed catching prey as fast as armadillos. But Australia also has its own very impressive lizard, in the Perentie. This lizard is the largest monitor lizard native to Australia, and is one of the largest living lizards on the planet. It's only rarely beaten by the Komodo dragon, Asian water monitor, and crocodile monitor, which are very impressive lizards in their own right. Like their larger relatives, the Komodo dragons, these lizards are thought to be mildly venomous. This venom isn't really very dangerous, but it can cause swelling, and it works as an anticoagulant. The Perentie is one of the most athletic lizards in the world. Not only can they run very quickly, but they can also run for a very long time, which is rarely seen in reptiles. Despite being very efficient killers, these lizards tend to avoid human contact, and often retreat before they're seen. But if these two giant lizards were to come together, who would come out victorious? Well, in the tegu world, males are a lot larger than females, but they average out at around 1.2 meters in length, compared to the Perentie's 1.8. Tegus also have an average weight of around 8 kilograms, compared to the Perentie's 15. For me, there's only one winner in this fight, because not only is the Perentie much larger, but it's far more athletic, and also mildly venomous. So in my book, that makes it 3-1. But our last two species are both the spectral bat and the grey-headed flying fox. Now, there's no getting away from the fact that the spectral bat is very ugly. It also goes by the name of great false vampire bat, as they are often misidentified as vampire bats. In fact, their closest relatives are the big-eared woolly bats, but the spectral bat is the largest bat in the New World. This species is also the largest carnivorous bat, and will hunt anything from birds to rodents and even other bats. To help them take down this prey, they have mean teeth and strong jaws, and if you're a smaller creature, they're certainly not to be messed with. But over in Australia, there's a more friendly bat, in the grey-headed flying fox. This bat is the largest bat in Australia, and is endemic to the southeastern forested areas of Australia. Although it's named for its grey head, it does have a striking red-orange colour along its body. They can often be seen hanging upside down in forests or mangroves, and they can sometimes sometimes be found in groups in the thousands. These groups are known as camps, and when these camps decide to move, it really is a sight to behold. But if these two bats were to go head to head, who would come out as the winner? Well, the grey-headed flying fox is a lot larger, with a wingspan of 1 meter compared to the spectral bat's 80 centimeters, and a weight of 800 grams compared to the spectral bat's 160 grams. Because the spectral bat is a predatory species and also preys on other bats, you may think it would win this fight, but the grey-headed flying fox also has some nasty teeth of its own, and because of its size advantage, I'll give it the win, and overall it's 4-1 to Australia. Now of course these are just my opinions, and you can let yours be known in the comments below, but thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these, but until next time, goodbye.